Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to base and snow base your Warhammer 40,000 miniatures. I know for some people it's a bit of an afterthought, basing their miniatures, but I really encourage you to do these as best you can, because if you think this is the only part of the model that really tells anybody else who looks at them where your army is playing in or working in. And as you can see for my guys, they're sort of winter style troops working in an environment which has just started to snow, and it's actually mixing in with the mud that they're trudging through. So to achieve this look you need a few things. Firstly, with the graph Tuffs. I'm using the ones from Citadel, and you can see in the box it's got numerous sizes there, from being quite big for a bit smaller, which fit very well onto smaller style miniatures such as Astra Militarum. Next you'll need something to represent the rocks. I use this by the Army Painter, and basically this is just pieces of cork all chopped up. So if you're on a budget, get some old red wine corks, cut them up, and you've got some rocks there. And finally, the most basic I use is good old-fashioned kitchen salt. I know you can use bicarbonate, I think soda, because it's a bit finer, but I find kitchen salt does the job very well to represent the mud. And for the snow, the Citadel Valhallan Blizzard is a fantastic product. It's quite clumpy, it's a very nice sort of shiny white, and it dries very well once you apply it onto your miniature. I've tried other products such as this one by the Army Painter Battlefield Snow, but it's nowhere near as good as Valhallan Blizzard. And finally, I use Wet Effects Fluid from AK Interactive. It's an oil-based product, which sort of leaves a nice shine. And I put it on to sort of show areas which are starting to get quite frosted and icy. Right, so first place to start will be getting your graph Tuffs. I'm actually using some little precision scissors, or you could use a hobby knife, to cut them out from the plastic backing. Make sure you cut as close as possible to the actual tuff itself, because you don't want this bit of plastic sort of showing when you stick it on. And then applying it to the model, I actually use cement glue. You can really use super glue as well. And basically just put them in place. If the model can fit a couple, go for it. If not, just put one on there. And next we'll be putting on your little rocks, the bits of cork. I've used super glue there. And it's far from an exact science the way I do it, but basically put it on and then basically smash down with my tweezers any pieces. You could just try to fumble your way through here. Of course you go piece by piece with your tweezers, but I keep it sort of pretty random and sporadic. So with the rocks are glued in place, you can use rust grey to paint the rocks. Make sure the super glue is dry, unlike myself who was too keen and basically have a very stiff brush to be using now. So use rust grey to paint the rocks. Then do a dry brush with ceramide white to give it those nice sharp edges. And when the rock's painted, then move on to basically getting some PVA glue and covering any spots which don't have grass tufts or the rocks with PVA glue. Now you stick it in the kitchen sand like I've done there, kitchen salt rather. And basically you want to just saturate it in there, knock the model around like I did there to get any parts that didn't stick on. And as I use my thumb there, as you can see, to take any bits that didn't stick off the side of the base. I think if you are just trying to do this super quick and be a little bit lazy, you could just apply PVA glue to the entire base of the model and then put on your bicarbonate soda or kitchen salt like I've done there. And once you're happy with your application, let it dry for at least 3 or 4 hours, and before you paint, tap the miniature so any excess sand comes off. And then I use Doombull brown to paint the mud, and then dry brush with Zandri dust after. Just to show what it looks like at this point, you can see I'm rotating around now. Don't be too worried if you get the brown mud on any of their boots or the rocks. It is mud, it's quite messy. So I guess if your army isn't working in a cold environment, you can obviously finish at this point here. Right, so now applying the snow, using the Citadel product. The little tool I'm using there actually can be purchased from Games Workshop. Basically it's like a little flathead screwdriver which is made of plastic. It can bend and shift a fair bit. Take a fair bit of the Valhallan Blizzard. Don't be afraid to put too much on, because you could put it back. And it's a matter of just sort of smashing it around in between the rocks, also in the grass, and covering a fair portion of the mud you've painted up. I guess you want to get a bit of a balance here. You don't want to cover up all the work you've just done, but you do want to show there's been a fair bit of snow coverage. I guess a question from anybody would be, why on earth would you bother doing all the work before but I think it gives the model a great bit of depth to show that there's some mud beneath and it's snowed on top. Just to further illustrate that point, you can see here from my kit bashed Colour Sergeant Kell that I didn't apply any mud beforehand. Obviously there's a fair bit going on there with the Chaos Marine's head, and also the rocks there, but I think it does lack a bit of depth, not having the mud beneath. So hopefully you agree, that extra step is definitely worth it. Right, so the final step is applying your wet effects fluid. And I simply apply it to all the areas which you can still see the mud showing through. Also any rocks which you've placed there. And once it dries, it leaves a bit of a shine. It's quite subtle, but it does help sort of show that maybe the ground is starting to freeze, or some frost is appearing as well. So just go around, apply it on any areas where you can see the mud, and be aware this is an oil-based product, so you might have to wash your brushes out after with an alcohol. So there you have it, how to base and snow base your miniatures. A great task, as I said before, as it shows people where your army are operating in, be it the jungle, urban environment with some rubble, or in my case, a muddy field where the snow is mixing in altogether. So if you've got any questions, please ask in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, like and subscribe for more videos as I assemble, paint and play Astra Militarum in the world of Warhammer 40,000. I'll include in the bottom as well a link on how to paint this colour scheme, which is the Castcraft Jackals, as found in the Codex for Imperial Guard. Until next time, see ya!